If you've been on a spiritual journey after religious trauma or church hurt, as some people have been known to call it, maybe you're in the deconstructing process and trying to reconstruct some kind of faith for yourself, this video is for you. Today I'm going to address some of the big spiritual wounds or religious wounds that happened to us and how they broke down our feelings of trust and what we can do to start rebuilding that trust. After I left the cult that I had been in for a couple of decades, some of my very first questions were, who do I trust? Who's telling the truth? I had all these doubts about organized religion and, which denomination was right, because they all claimed to be the true church, but they all disagreed with each other. Sure, they had some threads of things that they agreed on, but by and large, there were a lot of disagreements, and I didn't know who to listen to, who was telling the truth. And if my eternity was on the line, like if I was going to go to hell for not making the right choice, I really wanted to know who to listen to. This breakdown of trust in religious leaders, in churches, in denominations, and even in organized religion itself can really leave you feeling isolated and alone and like you don't even know where to go, so you kind of just go nowhere. You spend a lot of time by yourself. Let me know in the comments if you can relate to that and you've been in that place. I know for a while after I left organized religion, some of my questions were even like, God, are you even a thing? Like, do you even really exist? Is this idea of God that I've grown up with or spent the last, quarter century with, does any of that even hold true still? Or is God this new thing that I don't even have any clue what it looks like? Or is it a he? Is it a she? Is it a them? Is it none of those things? Does it include everything in the universe? I was so open and ready to explore, and I was luckily for me, I was in grad school at the time, and I was doing 2 master's degrees. One was in liberal arts, and that was really a study of like Western thinking. So a lot of Western Christianity and, the roots of that whole system. And then the second grad degree I did was in Eastern classics. So I got to look at Eastern religions and things that predate the Bible by thousands of years. And we looked at original source texts in these programs that I was in. So I feel really fortunate that I was able to like really dig deep into origins of, everybody's been asking the same question from the dawn of time. Like, why are we here? Is God real? Does God care about us? And what the hell is going on in the universe? So I was able to look deeply into these ideas from both kind of sides of the coin, like this Eastern perspective that tends to be more mystical and, pre-Christianity and all that. And then the Western side as well, like post-Christianity and how we were thinking during those times. And even the Western was pre-Christianity too, like Plato and Socrates and all of that. But they were still asking the same questions, like, is God real? And, who are we to it, them, whatever? And, what's the relationship between us and them? And one of the things that these programs helped me to do was start asking better questions, and really critical thinking like became a thing in my life for the first time, because in my past religious experience, it was pretty much where like you really didn't read anything but the Bible. You didn't question your leaders. You didn't question the Bible. You didn't question your church's interpretation of the Bible. Anything like that would have been considered unspiritual or like not close to God or a weak faith, that kind of thing. And we didn't even really read too many books that weren't published by our church. So there wasn't a lot of exposure to information and critical thinking and stuff like that, and like questioning. So inside my church past, my experience, it was very limited to just the Bible. And it wasn't until I found out after I left my church and kind of started talking to a lot of people from other churches that was actually pretty common. A lot of modern Western Christians only read the Bible. They've never read anything like the Mahabharata or the Bhagavad Gita or the sutras or like any Eastern stuff. All of that was considered demonic in my church, and like opening the door to, demons and Satan and all these things. Like all this fear mongering was going on. So when you leave, there's this massive sense of distrust and like, I can't trust myself. I don't know what's real, what's not real. I don't know if it's okay to learn about these other things because I'm afraid of letting in demons. And what if I accidentally let a demon into my spirit and I get deceived? And then, it all literally goes to hell in a handbasket after that. So the spiritual journey post religious trauma is a really tough one to navigate. It's very sensitive. It's very, you can just feel really insecure in your footing until you can really study these things out. But it's like, how do I study them out? Because I don't know what books to read, because I've been reading the Bible, but every time now I read the Bible, all I hear is my church's voice, and I don't want that. And so I just don't want to read the Bible for now. And then like praying, I'm not even sure who I'm praying to, so I don't know how to trust that. And then these other books that I'm pretty interested in, I just want to learn about it, but what if I let a demon in, so I can't trust that? And there's all this external, like all these voices going on, swirling around, just driving home confusion, doubt, fear, distrust, disillusionment. We don't even know where to turn. It's so frustrating. But one thing I seemed to hang on to was this idea that God is love. So even if I didn't know who or what God was, I knew love was still a force to be reckoned with. And I just, through thinking and what felt intuitive and what felt like a knowing, was that there was still love, and that love was a powerful force in the universe. And it didn't seem to matter what the religion was, what the, maybe even atheism, like non-religion, like it didn't seem to matter. Everyone of every time and place and creed and nation and tongue seemed capable somewhere of love. And so that was what I started to tune into. And I tuned every voice out, and I just said, okay, God, if you are real, whoever you are, if I can't grasp who you are right now. So how about, instead of me looking to find out who is telling the truth, what church is telling the truth, or what person or pastor or guru or whatever, God, you just show me who you are and where you've been in all of time and space, and in all like nations, all cultures, all people. And that was when I started to trust myself to let go of every other outside voice and learn to just let that sit to the side for a little bit and open myself up to just learning about cultures, learning about people, learning about the questions people were asking about the nature of divinity and our relationship to it and with it. And that was when the Spirit really started showing up for me and opening whole new worlds and recreating new beliefs in my mind and anchoring it all in this idea of love. And I started to redirect my trust from trusting in churches, books, people, external things, and putting my trust in love and my capability to learn about love. So the next thing I started to learn about was energy. I had this idea, this sense, this kind of knowing that everything was made of energy. I've been a teacher and a mentor for over 30 years, and one of the subjects I taught in private school was this idea of energy, and how even the chair is made of energy, and the things that are innate, inanimate objects we've discovered are actually made of energy. And so this idea of love and energy and existence in that sort of realm brought me to these ideas of manifesting. And what does it mean to manifest? And then I started learning about the mind and how the mind works. And I started a simple practice of just stepping into gratitude, because sort of the gateway or the entry into manifesting seemed to be, everybody was saying, was gratitude. And so I started a simple practice of daily meditation on just gratitude, guided meditations, or just writing in my journal things I was grateful for. I would do this in the morning and in the evening, and I did this for quite some time. And I just let myself sit with the idea of love, everything is energy, and just finding things to be grateful for. While I was doing this manifesting gratitude sort of practice, I started thinking about how lonely I felt, how isolated I felt, how I didn't feel like I had anyone I could talk to and really process this information with. And just the practice of thinking about this and really in my heart just wishing for and thinking about and starting to open myself up to the idea of other people in community who are thinking the same as me, that energy that I was putting out into my field, it eventually brought me to a place where people with similar experiences were starting to come into my sort of life bubble. They were all online, so that felt very safe, very cool. I was cool with that. There was a little bit of distance and separation because there's still a lack of trust and things that I was working on growing. But I finally had some place to go where I could ask these questions and not looking for answers, but really just looking to bounce ideas off of other people and just feel safe even asking the questions, all my doubts and all my fears, and being able to vent all the things that I had gone through in my religious traumatic experience, and finding other people who could relate to that. It was shocking to me how many people in other churches besides mine shared very similar experiences. It was when I first started to understand that a cult is not this radical, not necessarily just a radical, tiny little sect of people doing totally off the wall things. Cults can be the church down the street. So just know that there are other people out there who are going through similar things as you. They're in the same stage as you. Some are behind you, some are ahead of you. There's a whole spectrum of people who are going through this as more and more people are starting to spiritually wake up and realize that organized religion is not kind of holding to its promises, or it's not adding up, or something's just off and something's wrong. And we're finding more confidence as a people to step away from that and look within and discover what Jesus said was within all along. The kingdom of God is within you. And as more and more of us are stepping into this space of confidence in ourselves and taking back our power from systems, from external authorities, just know that you are safe within yourself. You are safe to go within and decide how you are going to live out your spiritual life. You have access to every resource that you need. You can go for walks in nature. You can journal. You can start writing. You can dive into art and get creative and express, all these emotions and confusion and curiosities. You can express it through art. They are these moments of creativity that we can step into within ourselves that are acts of awareness, acts of intentionality, acts of growing into our intuition and leaning into that intuition that we're born with, and that no matter what we experience in this life cannot be taken away from us. It cannot be destroyed. It cannot be harmed. It can just be covered over. It's kind of like an onion. When you peel the layers back, you finally get down to the core of the onion that was there all along. That's what's inside of you. That is that intuition that's inside of you, and you never, ever lose access to that. When I first started to embrace this idea that I had this innate sense of perfection at my core that could never be destroyed or harmed, one of the things that my ego did was come right behind that and say, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? What if I'm deceived? What if it's all smoke and mirrors and I'm going to end up in hell? So if you're struggling with the what ifs and the fears of that, just know that's normal and it's totally okay. Take a few deep breaths and come back to your foundation that is love and energy and being held by the universe, and that there's something to be discovered there. and let yourself relax into that and just trust the process and keep going, keep learning. These moments where the ego kicks in and says, "What if I'm wrong?" Those are actually really precious gifts that I don't want you to be afraid of. I want you to lean into those and really learn that that's a gift. That's a moment for you to say, "What if I'm wrong about, like, hell, for example? What if I'm wrong about hell? What if I'm wrong and all of these things I'm learning are wrong and deceiving me and I'm going to hell?" Okay, let's disconnect emotionally from that for a second and ask ourselves, well, what is hell? What did Jesus say about hell? What do other religions say about hell? When did hell enter the picture in our narrative? Are there resources out there that might have an alternative perspective on hell that I might learn something from? And then just take the opportunity to dig in and learn something new about hell. Did you know that there are actually 5 different words that the Bible uses for the word hell, and none of them mean eternal conscious torment? It's true. Go study it. I have a book that I'm going to be getting into over the next couple of months called, I think it's called Deconstructing Hell or something like that. Or Disassembling Hell or I don't know, something like that, written by a doctor of theology. And I'm really excited that I'll be able to share some of that here. So hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, if you want to learn more about that and walk through that deeper learning with me. Just remember that you're not alone, and many, 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 many people have gone through and are going through the same process of figuring out that things weren't just adding up quite right, and they're discovering that they do have an innate sense of knowing. They do have an intuition that has never been broken. They do have a place within themselves that is fully healed, fully like complete, perfect, whole, just untouchable. And if we can get back to that place and learn how to re-access that place at will, then we can provide leadership to those other parts of ourselves that struggle with fear, doubt, mistrust, shame, guilt, all those things. One thing you might do this week is take out a journal and just start sort of writing down some reflections. Start asking yourself, like, where are my deepest spiritual wounds? One practice that I really learned how to do was called listening. It was called listening prayer in some circles. In other circles, it's called channeling. So it's like it's all kind of just connecting to the spirit world and trusting that what you hear is not made up. But one of the things that I would ask is like, what do I need to know today? Or I asked, what do you think about me? How do you feel about me? There was this whole series of journaling I did over several weeks and months, and I called it Conversations with God. And one of the things that I did was create like a 30 days of divine discovery guide that's available for free. It's on my website. I'll put it in the link below. But it's a 30 days worth of prompts, of questions that you can write down in a journal and listen for the answer. So there's a little short guide, some short instructions in this document that I have, and it kind of teaches you how to sort of access that sort of still place and that other knowing, that quiet voice, or some people call it the higher self, some people call it, your soul self. There's lots of different words for it, but this innate knowing, this intuition, how to really connect to that. And I took a lot of the questions from the journaling that I did, and I put it in this 30 days of divine discovery. So check the link below and just go grab that and work through that and see if it brings more clarity to you. These small practices are going to go a long way. Next week, I'm going to be talking about how to set a vision that feels doable, that feels aligned with where you're currently at, and just creating some ongoing spiritual goals and ways that you can grow in, your spiritual life and your personal life, and sort of take all these doubts and these fears and these mistrusts and learn how to provide leadership to them, learn how to counsel them within yourself, how to coach yourself through these things, and make real progress that lasts. I think one of the key takeaways for this week is just recognizing that you can't eat the whole elephant at once, especially if you spent a long amount of time in this kind of high control atmosphere where you're left with so much fear and doubt that you become paralyzed. Just start small. Do something simple, do something small, and do it continually over time. And you'll find that after a while, you're making real progress. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and hit subscribe, where we're going to be talking a lot about how to overcome these fears, these doubts, how to learn to trust yourself and the divine, how to step into the fully abundant life that you were promised, and how to clarify your purpose, how to step forward with vision, intentionality, trust in who you are, trust in your relationship to the divine. And we'll see you next week.